Welcome to the What's Our Verdict TV podcast, where we fashion ourselves television judge and jury. My name is JJ Crowder. I'm here with my co-hosts, Matt Senheiner.
Better read than dead.
And Alec Burgess.
Let's get it.
Do you ever find yourself wondering if you should take the time to set your TiVo to record a show each week or invest hours into binging that show that all your friends are telling you to watch? We're here to answer that question for you. We put TV shows on trial, discuss facts, pass judgment, and let you know our verdict. We appreciate your help going on the podcast. Go ahead and hit that follow or subscribe button. Hit that. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that bell notification so you can keep up on all of our new episodes each week on Moon Knight and other TV shows as they come out moving forward. Also, don't forget, go to podchaser.com. Leave us a review. They're currently running their Reviews for Good campaign. For every review, they'll donate 25 cents to the World Central Kitchen's Chefs for Ukraine campaign that's going on right now. And they'll double that if we reply to that review, which we will. We've gotten a handful. There is currently a prize package going on for that. If we get 30 reviews, which I think we're getting close to 10 right now. I think we're up to like 5 or 6. But if we get 30 reviews by the end of April, Mattson will wear a dress during one of our TV episodes here. And then if we hit 60, Alec will watch our lowest rated movie from our movie side of the podcast, She Dies Tomorrow. And if we hit 100, then I will get myself murdered in my sleep by shaving my beard. And that threat came on an episode last 2 weeks ago, I think. So yeah, check out the it was the
Vox Machina critical
Vox Machina episode. Yeah, when we listened to we reviewed Vox Machina, Legend of Vox Machina. She threatened to kill me for shaving my beard. So
You didn't tell our audience. So Casey, wow,
she was not happy.
Yeah,
like for us to get 100 reviews, guys, step it up. By the way, like I mean, I want to keep JJ as a friend, so maybe not. Maybe get to 99. I don't know.
I'll stay your friend, but Casey might hate you forever because she hates it when I shave my beard.
Somehow I'm like, why did I make myself the 30 review guy? But
I volunteered you for that.
That's true.
Yeah, but I am a man of the people, so if the people want it, they can have it. So get to it.
Yeah, so go there, podchaser.com. You can leave a review. We're counting any of them towards the movie side or the TV side. So go ahead and leave reviews on both, just for the good cause, if nothing else. And if we get up to those 30, 60, and 100, then that's even better, just because it'll be fun. But also, it's good. It's a good cause. So go leave those reviews and do it for all your podcasts. If you listen to more than just us, go do it for those ones as well. Because any podcast review.
Yeah, give some money to the people in Ukraine and the surrounding area, people that need it.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not your money either, so just do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it costs you
literally
nothing.
type, I like this podcast. Done.
Yep, that's it. So, and that gets bare minimum 25 cents sent over to them. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but that adds up. So go do it. All right, today we're reviewing Moon Knight Season 1, Episode 2, Summon the Suit. Let's jump right in. This one was interesting just because it was a lot more of finally some character building besides like some jump cuts and weird edits. So we're progressing. And I actually like the way that it progressed to where, you're starting to see that interaction between Mark Spector and Stephen Grant. And, then there's always the showing up of Mr. Knight suit, the Mr. Knight suit there as he fell out of the building.
What are we wearing?
Cool. Yeah. That's some psycho. What was it? Colonel Sanders.
No, that's what he said. That's right.
Yeah.
I'll say this: the CGI. I was a little worried about JJ when you told us that it was going to be, it was going to be all CGI, and I was paying more attention to it, and I didn't really find it bothering me. I thought they did a good enough job. It didn't detract from the visuals and what they were trying to tell us. So I thought it was okay because I was worried.
Yeah, it was a vast improvement from the first episode, and I think it might have just been the way that the angles were in the end of that first episode where he's turning around after beating up the jackal. Like, I just think it might have been a weird angle. And so it looked a little funky, but it looked great in this episode, considering, especially that end where they go from Mr. Knight to the actual full Moon Knight suit and he's turning around and you see the straps coming in. It was pretty bitching. They did a pretty good job this time. So They also introduced Layla, Mark Spector's wife. This is she's a cool chick, and I'm excited to see even more of her as we move forward. She's a combination, I think, in some comics. Like I did some research because again, I don't know a lot. I didn't know a lot about this character. I just knew he looked badass, and the fact that he came in and like he was introducing a comic about a werewolf, that's my kind of shit. So I was like, I knew of him and seen some comics when he was in the West Coast Avengers that I read, and then in the Avengers themselves. So, but I did some research, and there's not a Layla character. This is a character they created for the show. But it seems like Mark Spector did have a wife, and her dad was an archaeologist. So a lot of people are saying it's a combination of those two. Layla is. But no matter what it is, I think she's a great addition to the show. I thought she was fun, just giving him a hard time and then just being really badass. And added some stakes with Khonshu threatening him, saying, she's my next avatar if you fuck up.
Yeah, that part was interesting to me because but the part that even threw me more for a loop was what's the bad guy's name in this?
Arthur Harrow.
When he talked about he was Mark before, when he was the avatar of Khonshu, I was like, oh man, like I just got deeper real quick.
Yeah,
that was funny. Like, is he telling you to kill me?
Yeah.
What'd he say? Is it I am justice?
Yeah. Well, and once again, Ethan Hawke really impressed again as Arthur Harrow.
Oh, he did great. He's awesome so far. He's just cold, but he cold, but very. There's so much. You think there's so much to him behind what he's saying. There's just a lot of weight there, and I mean, honestly, maybe wisdom from an evil perspective. I don't know, but just I find myself almost liking him more and want more of him than I even do Mark in some ways, because Mark's so quirky and not Mark, sorry, Steven is so quirky. Mark, who we were kind of getting, but he's probably cold and calculated. But I really like the bad guy a lot. He's just really, the fact that he could sit down and had the patience to have like that long drawn out conversation, bring him in. I'm like, yeah, we don't really see that from a bad guy perspective. Like he took him to dinner and then decided to threaten him with a underworld beast.
Yeah.
At least take me to dinner first. He did.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for the first 15 minutes, I'm on Arthur Harrow's team. Yeah. I'm like, this dude's not the bad guy. This dude's the good guy. And then he calls forth the Jackal and, threatens mayhem and murder and all that good stuff. And I'm only just slightly less on his side now. But yeah, I'm Team Arthur.
But it brings up a really interesting, you guys know, those that listen to us, I'm really big on like thought-provoking, moralistic decisions and things like that. And that I didn't know that this comic is really based off of that principle of, are you going to prejudge someone? This mystical being can judge you maybe 15 years later. I'm going to, I don't know, do X, Y, and Z. I'm going to murder someone. But we own it. Is that determined? It's fatalistic. It's going to happen, and therefore that judgment is correct. If we can stop it now, we're going to save ourselves later. Or is it the conscious side of things where until something has been wronged, you can't really do anything to that person? I thought that conundrum is obviously what this is built around. Those mystical beings are the struggle for the way that they bring justice to the world. And I feel like the world, if we like our listeners, are probably lean towards the Khonshu side of things, because otherwise, if you're just taking people out because they're going to do some bad at some point, then it becomes, well, what's the line of being bad versus like to be killed or not be killed? And then again, is fate set? Like, is it determined? Absolutely, JJ is going to do that thing in 10 years. So I just wanted to hear what you guys all thought about that, because that type of thinking is just like, it's cool.
I know the right answer is to say that I'm on Khonshu's team, but the honest answer is I kind of lean the other way. Because if you are going to do something bad, then just get it over with, right? And then you don't got to worry about it because you're dead. Versus if you get judged and there isn't that problem, then hey, I'm scot-free. So it's kind of taking a huge gamble on one roll of the dice. And either come up sevens, or you're gonna roll a natural 1 or something like that.
Nice. I like it.
D&D reference for those that didn't know.
It was beautiful.
Yeah, see, I know stuff now.
It was a beautiful tie-in, sir. I liked it. I'm with you. This one's tough for me because it's obviously, I think everybody involved in this show right now is a dick. Like, I don't think there's a good guy versus a bad guy. Like, I know we're all like rooting for Mark Spector and Stephen Grant and Moon Knight because they're the title character, right? And so obviously they have to be good. But I harken back. This reminds me, and it feels like it fits in with those Netflix side very well, which I think they're aiming for, because he is a defender level typically in the comics, from what I read, what I've found out. So he's in that camp where he's a little more brutal than most. He's a little more iffy on the morality side of it. And so, which I like, because that's what I liked about those characters in the Netflix shows is, were they always the good guy? Not so much. I mean, there's arguments for both sides. And I think, to me, a superhero or a hero of any sort that you can look at and go, there's some moral ambiguity in there that makes you kind of go, I don't know. Because I think that's real, right? Like, I don't think, like, a Captain America is fun to watch and enjoyable and you root for him, but it's not really realistic, in my opinion. Like, there's nobody out there that's that perfect when it comes to what they do and why they do it and how they do it.
Or but that when you start of an ass as well.
Exactly. But when you start talking about a Stephen Grant and a Mark Spector, even on their own, without the fact that you're now dealing with DID on top of, you have a human being that's in this exceptional position of being given powers by a god that's obviously morally ambiguous and willing to go to any extreme. And you're battling one that the villain himself, we've talked about, seems like he's not that bad of a guy, other than he's ready to commit a version of genocide, whether it because sinner genocide as opposed to racial genocide. So it's like, are we really? I don't know. So that's what I think I love so far about. I mean, it's 2 episodes in, but
it's intriguing.
There's hard decisions to make, right? Like you can't pick one side over the other in a very clear-cut decision right now, other than you're rooting for the title character, because we all know it's the title character.
You bring up some good points, JJ. It makes me think of The Boys, and one of the reasons I like it, because it's one of the first superhero shows that really lean into, these are human beings first, superheroes second, and human beings are ultimately flawed. Like even Superman to an extent. I mean, we see some of that in Batman versus Superman, but that's one thing I love about DC. And one thing I don't like about Marvel sometimes is they just gloss over the finer details, and it's like, oh yeah, Captain America is just all good all the time, and then DC just can't be funny enough and gets too serious sometimes. But so far with Moon Knight, I think they're walking a good fine line where it just makes you think of those things, and kind of like JJ and I were saying, there isn't really, I don't know if there's a really right answer to what I was asking. I was just curious to see what people thought, and to me, those are usually some of the most thought-provoking and intriguing movies, because you can spin your answer like 3 different ways.
One, it's very Minority Reportish right now, like the whole, at least on the Amit side, right? So kill them before they can do something wrong, or put them in prison, fair. Whatever you want to go. So, and that one, while not the greatest movie, and a little bit weird shit happened in that movie, it also made you think and go, because again, for that to work, that system, or Amit's system to work, that means Amit has to be infallible. And obviously there are competing stances and ideas behind that. And how do we know where her ability to see the future comes from? There's so many questions that are there to make you go, how do we know that you're infallible, in order for me to really believe in that? Because, I want to say I'm team Amit, and team Harrow, but fuck, I'm probably one of those guys that doesn't want to pick up the crocodile cane. Just saying. Might be
JJ
down the road.
JJ has a date with destiny in about 10 years, and he's worried about letting out the secret.
Exactly.
I can tell you the easiest decision of this episode was, I don't like Khonshu because he did the thing with the lights that we saw in Morbius, where after what's his name, Steven comes out of the storage locker, light flicks on, flicks off, Khonshu gets closer, flicks off, Khonshu gets closer, flicks off.
Yeah, I should be saying this now. We've seen it in 2 movies. I'm like, this must be more normal than we think it is.
Apparently.
Well, I think you have 2 different situations here, right? You have one that has a god that can kind of interact with the real world, and then you have one that was a hospital that just had really shitty power supply or something to that. I mean, just had some random ass lighting issues where it would only light up if you're in this cord part of the hallway. What the fuck's that shit all
It would
about?
be nice though, like my house, to just have it turn on, and because saying "Hey Google" or "Hey Alexa" can be nice, but what if you just want your bathroom to turn on and then it turns off a little bit later, but not like every light in your house, but it could be nice. So, I'm appreciative of the movies, getting my mind thinking here.
Light switch on, off.
I'm in theory, I'm with you, Mattson, until I'm taking a shit and the light goes off and I can't do anything about it. Like that becomes, because I mean,
wave your hand. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, either that or like,
but it could turn on JJ, and then it's like, JJ, going number 2, and you're like, yes, and it just knows leave the lights on for 30 minutes. It plays music and put some air freshener in there. All the things.
Now, the music and air freshener, I'm down for. I don't know that I want you telling me I'm taking a shit though.
Well, see, that is extremely different than being in a storage facility and having a god stalking you, or a vampire fair. In a hospital. I mean, especially I would go for some nice tunes.
Just think about it. Then the toilet goes up if you're going number 1, and then it knows to put it down after you go number 2, and all this it does it for you.
Yeah, I'm all for that.
Save marriages right there.
Look, I'm halfway to a smart house already, so I mean, I'm good with all that.
Alexa, Google, if you're there, like we don't get to plug you very much. You're not one of our mainstays like AMC, but today, like we need you.
Yeah, and I'm just glad I'm wearing headphones because you'd have triggered mine by now like 3 times. And all my lights that are on behind me are all triggered by her. So, yeah.
Nice. So there was also an interaction between Khonshu and Mark where he talks about like the deal that they made. Is there anything that you know about that, JJ? Because it sounded like they were cluing in to how Steven and Mark ended up sharing the same body.
Yeah, and in the comics, it's a little different if I've read right. And again, I haven't read the comics. This is just me doing some research on the internet. But my understanding is that the deal that was made happened. Somebody died, and I don't think it was Mark. They've intimated that in the TV show that Mark died and then made the deal with Khonshu, and he came back, which happens later in the comics. But my understanding with it is that someone dies, and then he makes the deal for that person to come back and becomes the Fist of Khonshu for that reason, to save them. Now, I don't know who it was. I didn't get that deep into the lore, but that's my understanding. And then the other thing is that Stephen Grant, Mark Spector, and there's like 2 other main identities in the comics. Yeah, there's a cab driver. Then there's one other. I think there's 4 total. Mark Spector is the main one, but there's some other ones that are in there, and they are constantly fighting with each other in the comics. But my understanding in the comics is DID was always there. It was never like, and it was always something he was dealing with on a human level. This show's kind of showing that fracture happened and was made worse, or manifested actually in a way that their identities are interacting with each other and actually changing more often than not based on Khonshu taking over. So I think there's some lore changes that they're making for it to make more sense on a TV show, which it all works for me. I think I think I would have liked it better if it was just something that he's always dealt with DID. And now because of the fracture, the identities are aware of each other, as opposed to most DID, they're not. They're just kind of working through, at least from what I know about DID.
So I should get Taylor on here because she finds this show extremely fascinating. For our listeners, my wife Taylor is a therapist. She works with varying populations, but she specializes in addiction, and she was trying to determine if there's supposed DID or schizophrenia, because for a while there was a little weird because he was the only one. She was confused because when they showed the museum footage of Mark just cowering down, running around, like just breaking things, and the security guy's like, dude, like, what are you doing? He's like, but don't you see the, like, wait for it, it's coming, and it never comes. But then later in the show, she's like, oh no, it is DID because he's only able to see the mystical being because of his connection to Khonshu. So schizophrenia was out of it because, as JJ alluded to, with DID, they don't know that they have multiple personalities. They'll just wake up and boom, they're that, and they're doing it, and then something triggers it and they flip into the next thing. But in her description, not knowing so much of the backstory until she looked it up, she was like, well, whatever happened in Egypt and his line with Mark Spector, either it happened earlier or around that time, where to deal with his line of work and the stress and the death and everything, his personalities probably started to splinter to deal with it. And hence Steven, the cab driver, and other things. And she's like, Steven is probably the main one that he defers to deal with the burden of being Mark Spector, because it's such a catastrophic thing to deal with from a mental health perspective. And that's usually where DID comes from. Usually it's from childhood trauma because of abuse, malnourishment, things of that nature. And to deal with that, all these other personalities are start to be developed. And then there's usually a host personality, which in Mark Spector's case is Steven. And they deal with life from that perspective.
It's good insight. Thanks.
Now, she could say it way better than I could, but she just is totally fascinated by the portrayal of this, because there's not often a movie like this, especially from a superhero standpoint, that deals with some of these aspects of everyday life.
Yeah. We'll have to have her on. You'll have to talk to her, have her on. Come on.
Yeah, she said she would. Because Anna, every time we watch, she's like, man, there's not another episode? Like,
it's fascinating, that piece of it. And I think, to Oscar Isaac's credit, like, he's doing a fantastic job of, and I love how they're explaining, like, they're even making fun of his shitty British accent, like, because Layla's like, what the hell is up with that crap accent? And it, and that comes from the fact that that's one of these identities that has been developed due to what's going on. And so,
is he actually British in real life?
No, he's not.
Oh, okay.
He's funny. I'll have to send you guys there's a YouTube video where they're interviewing him, and he kind of was like, he's a couple of different races, and I don't remember what they are, but he's like, he goes, my look is, he goes, like, producers call it racially ambiguous or something like that. He goes, so I can play. He goes, I've played this race, this race, this race, this race, and I work for all of them. Like, and then he kind of bags on Hollywood for saying, like, we'll put you in this category of being able to play all of these different types of different races and things like that. So it's an interesting video, but yeah, he's American, but he's a very interesting. He's a good actor. I like him a lot. I've always enjoyed Oscar Isaac, so it's pretty cool.
It takes a lot to do what he's doing. I mean, he's essentially so far 2 different characters, and probably will add another in there.
Yeah, I would imagine so. And I'm interested to see if there's the other, like I said. So one thing I will clarify on that I did learn about this week as I was researching in the comics is Mr. Knight, the suit version, they've equated to Steven, which isn't how the comics it worked. So there were the other personalities, the other identities, but it was always Mark Spector in the suit. But Mark Spector also worked with the police sometimes as a detective, and he was called the world's greatest detective or something like that. I don't remember how it played out, but when he was helping the police, it was still Mark Spector, but he would wear that suit because it was less ominous or whatever. It was more of, it fit more what he was doing with the police at the time when he was doing some detective work. So that was a little difference in this version.
They make that change, but it kind of works if you think about it.
Yeah, no, I like what they're doing, that it makes sense that based on the personality that is manifesting at the time, that the suit would be based on how they see themselves, right? And she said, some in the suit. So in his mind, that identity's mind, that's a suit, right?
Yeah.
Not the ceremonial armor of Khonshu or whatever it was that the other one is. So, and I'm interested to see, just kind of a lead in for me to episode 3 coming up is I'm interested to see how, now that we've seen the switch where Mark Spector was the one that was in the body or manifesting as the actual character, and then in the mirrors at the end was Steven. So we've seen Steven accept what's going on and give in to letting the suit come out, and then at the end gave in to letting Mark take over, and then we see them still having a conversation, only in reverse. So I'm very interested to see how that plays out, if they're going to continue the comic versions of these fights that these identities are constantly having with each other in the comics. So I think there's a lot to look forward to with this show, and episode 2 really hooked me. I liked episode 1. Episode 2 got me, though.
And we have
a lot of cool
4
stuff.
left.
4 left. Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah. These short seasons, I'm like, oh, come on. I need
it's
more.
Ridiculous.
But I like it too, because one problem I did have with the Netflix ones is like episode 6 through 8. I'm like, Jesus Christ, can we move on? What does this have to do with anything?
Oh, Jay, you got to say like you normally do. Jesus.
Yeah. Jesus Christ.
That's how he said.
That is much better.
Yeah, that's that comes straight out of a movie, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that if you guys have never seen Trouble with the Curve. Okay, it's a baseball
Sounds like
movie.
a baseball, yeah.
It is, and I love baseball movies. And it's not necessarily a baseball movie, it's about a scout, and it's got what's the old man from that shitty movie we watched? Why can't I think of his name? The cowboy.
Clint Eastwood.
Clint Eastwood. So it's got Clint Eastwood
in it.
How
did you not know Clint Eastwood's
I don't
name?
fucking know. My brain.
You should be ashamed of yourself.
That, and the last time I watched a movie with Clint Eastwood in it, it made me want to puke. It was so bad. Movie was so terrible.
60-year-old lady, and he's like 90.
Yeah. Well, and he punches
50.
some kid in the face, and it looks like he knocked his head off. And I'm like, dude, he just broke every bone in his arm. Anyway, doesn't matter. Clint Eastwood stars in this movie, Trouble with the Curve, and then at the end, they're meeting with some baseball heads of a baseball team, and somebody's not doing well, and this coach is like, Jesus Christ, nobody saw this? And then he immediately follows it up with, Jesus Christ. And I laughed so hard at the response that I just have kind of mimicked it from then on out. So there you go.
Nice.
Trouble with the Curve. So Moon Knight episode 2, it was a good one. I'm looking forward to episode 3, boys, and what we have coming, and we will cover that next Tuesday. This one will be up on the 12th, and our next review will be up the following Tuesday. So yeah, keep an eye. Mattson, tell everybody where they can find us.
Yeah, you can find us at whatstheverdict.com. See what's upcoming. Jam-packed April. We're getting excited for May, especially though from a movie perspective, because we have some heavy hitters like Top Gun and the new Doctor Strange movie, as well as a TV show that I could not be more excited for. The newest addition to the Star Wars family, Obi-Wan, bringing back honestly, probably my 2 favorite actors in the whole series. I'm very excited to see Hayden Christensen. Love Ewan McGregor. So I know I would say that I may be looking more forward to that than anything we have on the schedule for months.
Yeah, I'm tickled. Cannot wait.
Yeah. And so check us out on Instagram and Facebook, especially. What's Our Verdict? You guys know where to find us, where you're listening to wherever good podcasts can be found. And don't forget Podchaser. Leave that review. Support Ukraine.
For sure. Also exciting news. There was hinting. There's no official announcement, but one of the actors, and I can't think of his name either. Oh my God, I'm terrible tonight, gentlemen. The guy, anyway, there's hints that The Mandalorian season 3 has finished filming and may release as early as late summer.
Woohoo!
So, wow. So we're going to have Obi-Wan, The Boys, and potentially Mandalorian.
Maybe. Now, again, that's not official. That's all speculation based on Giancarlo Esposito, the guy that plays the Moff in it, Moff Gideon. He's the one that was doing an interview and said, hey, maybe sometime in the summer. And I was like, holy shit. Okay.
That would be awesome.
So, yeah. So there you go. Maybe. But, man, I'm excited. Lots of good stuff coming. With that, as always, we appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one.
Bye.
Cinemagic out.
Whoa!